Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be doing some Reddit stories for today. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife fat? I, 34 male, work in a physically demanding field. Myself and my co-workers are all fit people, without a lot of body type variety. My wife, which is 32 female, is fat. The thing is, she's always been fat. The whole time I've known her. We dated when she was fat, we got married when she was fat. She knows she's fat. She's fat and she's beautiful. I'm happy if she loses weight, and I'm happy if she stays where she is. I think she's the most beautiful woman in the world. One of my co-workers, Julia, 28 female, started complaining that she's too fat to be loved, and fat people don't get to be loved. Julia isn't fat. She's maybe 120 pounds. She works out 5 times a week and barely ever eats. I told her that wasn't true and that my wife was fat. She got really red in the face and started telling me I wasn't allowed to call my wife fat, that I was insulting her, and that my wife was beautiful and curvy. Carol doesn't like being called curvy. She thinks it's a label used to avoid calling people fat because it's a dirty word to most people. I told Julia as such. Julia started threatening to tell my wife I called her fat. She pulled up her Instagram and told me she was messaging Carol that I was being mean. I beat her to the punch and called my wife, put her on speaker and asked if she was curvy or fat. She laughed and said, "I hate that curvy shit, fat and beautiful baby." I thanked her, told her I loved her, and hung up. As soon as I hit end, Julia went mental. She started screaming that I was abusing my wife. When I asked how, she said I was clearly brainwashing her into accepting the term fat to try to keep her complacent and from getting away from me. That no woman in her right mind could be okay with her husband calling them fat. I showed her a picture of my wife in a shirt that had BBW on it. She bought it for herself also. She stormed off and hasn't spoke to me since. Now, I just walked in today from an email from HR requesting a meeting with me. I don't think it's a big deal. I have my wife's blog for Fat Positivity, the shirt, and can easily call her for proof, but now things are frigid at work. And Julia constantly gives me dirty looks when we're in the same room. She ignores me otherwise. So I'm just over here scratching my head. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife fat? We have an update as well. So I met with HR at 4 today. Apparently multiple co-workers who had overheard the conversation stopped by HR through the day to give their side/weigh in. I wasn't in trouble, they just wanted my side of things. It checked out with what everybody else had said as well. I still don't know which of my crew stopped by, but I owe them my life. I offered to show my wife's blog, and our rep, who's a really nice girl, told me that if it didn't really affect my work, it was irrelevant. The story had been corroborated enough by others. HR reiterated a lot of what y'all said. Even though Julia initiated the conversation, I shouldn't have jumped in. It was less of a scolding and more of a request to keep my nose out of other people's business. I'm sad because I thought Julia and I were friends. We talked about our mental health struggles, the hardships of the field we're in, and heavy things like that. Won't be having those conversations any further. Julia and I will no longer be paired on teams for patient care. I was told my part in the investigation was done and they thanked me for my time, so I think I'm going to be okay. Before I left, I told HR that if weight loss/body image wasn't supposed to be a topic of conversation, they should consider enforcing that on a company level. We have a weight loss challenge. I suggested making it a fitness challenge instead. She said they'd take it into consideration. So that's it. I wrapped up my treatments, everything will hopefully shake out. Haven't spoken to Julia, hoping to avoid her for the near future. Thank you all for the sanity check. Now to quote Clue, I'm gonna go home and sleep with my wife. I think it's safe to say that nobody considers OP the butthole in this situation because what? I can't believe somebody would have the guts to talk about how other people label themselves and how they feel in their body. Your body is your choice and you should be able to label yourself however you feel to be able to label yourself. If she feels like being called fat is better than being called curvy, then let her be. She obviously loves it more and she loves herself more doing it. Now, on to our next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my sister's wedding early and causing a scene? Okay, so my sister 32F got married last weekend and was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. But now I'm 28 female being called selfish and immature by half of my family. I don't know if I'm in the wrong or not. For context, my sister and I have never been super close. She's always been the golden child and I'm like the leftover kid or whatever. Our parents have made it pretty obvious growing up, but still, I try to be supportive and help with the wedding when she asked me to be the bridesmaid. Fast forward to the wedding day and everything starts off fine. I'm in the dress, hair done, smiling for pics, all the bridesmaid duties. But then during the reception, my sister gives this long speech thanking everyone who helped her special day happen. She thanked our parents, her in-laws, her husband, obviously, the other bridesmaids, but not me. She literally skipped my name while thanking the bridal party, even though I spent hours helping her with stuff like centerpieces and last-minute errands. Everyone noticed, including my boyfriend, who leaned over and whispered, "Did she just skip you?" I brushed it off and thought maybe it was a mistake. But then her maid of honor, her bestie since college, goes up for a speech and jokes about how she's basically the sister that my sister never had. What? Everyone laughs and claps, and I'm sitting there like, okay, well, cool, that's great. I guess I don't exist. At this point, I'm feeling super embarrassed and hurt. I try to stay calm, but when my boyfriend suggests we just leave, I agree. I didn't want to cry at the table and make it even weirder, so we left quietly. Apparently, people noticed I was gone because the next day, my sister texted me saying I ruined her wedding by storming off. I told her I didn't storm off, I just felt unappreciated and needed space. She doubled down, saying the date wasn't about me and I'm selfish for making a big deal. Now my mum and some aunts are siding with her, saying I was disrespectful, but my boyfriend and a few friends are on my side, saying I was treated unfairly. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for leaving my sister's wedding early? There's a comment that I agree with. She set it up so you either had to sit there and be insulted and belittled, or she could abuse you for leaving. Either way, she wins. Cut her out completely, and anyone else who thinks that the way you were treated was okay. On to our third story. Am I the a-hole for calling an ambulance which got my co-worker fired? This got removed from Am I the a-hole, so posting here. I, 27F, was at group work training for my job this past weekend. The company put a bunch of us up in a hotel and had us attend a day-long presentation about our goals for the next quarter. For context, we're in sales, it's highly competitive, and the group consisted of mostly older employees, with me being the youngest. After a full day of meetings, a few of us decided to get dinner at a restaurant down the street from our hotel. We carpooled, and when we arrived, one of the older ladies, Deborah, 50-ish, was already there, standing at the bar. We invited her to join us in for food, and she declined, and we moved on with our night. I had 2 beers with dinner, so I'm not judging. But as we finished our meal, it became clear that Deborah was absolutely plastered. She was stumbling, I don't even know, and she was slurring her words pretty badly. As we left, Deborah came outside with us and reached for her keys. I obviously immediately stopped her and said I'd drive her back to our hotel. She agreed, but as she went to grab the passenger door handle, she missed and fell straight back onto the pavement, hitting the back of her head. I don't mean to be gross, but it sounded like someone dropped a carton of eggs. I checked, and not only was she passed out, but she was bleeding from her head. Everyone panicked, and I grabbed my phone and called 911. One of the younger guys stopped me and said, "Help me, get her in the car. We'll get her room key out of her purse and just put her in bed." I was bewildered and said, "But she has a head injury, she's bleeding. What if she cracked her skull?" I'm no doctor, but if you go to sleep with a head injury, don't you not wake up? I'm pretty sure I learned that in school, and some of the other employees agreed with me, so I called the ambulance. Paramedics took Deborah to the hospital. She survived. She was in really bad shape when I checked up on her the next day. Here's where I may be the a-hole. Our managers found out that Deborah was hospitalized for overdrinking while technically at a work function, and they fired her on the spot. Everyone else found out that I was the one who insisted on calling the ambulance. The older employees are all saying I did the right thing and that she could have died, but the younger ones are calling me a snake and saying I got her fired on purpose because she was competition. Am I the a-hole? I feel like Deborah would very much rather be alive than be fired, you know what I mean? She would definitely prefer to be alive than work at the cruddy job that fired her because she got too drunk at a work function. Who cares? Things happen. And everybody who says not to call an ambulance in these types of situations are actually brain dead, and they should be at the hospital in the first place, because how could you ever think that's an okay thing to do? If somebody's hurt, really hurt, you should just call people for help. Duh. On to our fourth story. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my boyfriend because he's a mama's boy? I, 28F, recently broke up with my boyfriend, 30M, because of his relationship with his mum. At first, I thought it was sweet how close they were, but over time, it started to really bother me. For context, his mum is very involved in his life. She still does things for him that, in my opinion, a grown man should be handling himself. For example, when she visits, she'll cut his steak for him and put the fork in his mouth, wash his underwear, run a bath for him, and help him wash his hair and tuck him into bed for naps. When she's around, he completely reverts to a child. He stops flushing the toilet, doesn't clean up after himself, and just acts like he's 8 years old. It's like all the maturity and independence I fell for just disappears. I tried to talk to him about how uncomfortable it made me. I explained that while I respect his love for his mum, I think there should be some boundaries. He brushed it off, saying I was overreacting and that this was just how they've always been. The final straw was when she stayed over for a weekend and he expected me to cater to her the way she caters to him. I'm talking cleaning up after both of them, cooking all the meals, and even joining in on the bizarre nap routine. I felt like I was the third wheel in my own relationship. After that, I told him I couldn't do it anymore and ended things. He was shocked and said I was jealous of his mum and just didn't understand their bond. His mum, of course, called me ungrateful and immature. Now I'm wondering if I overreacted. I didn't want to make him choose between me and his mum, but I also couldn't see myself in a relationship where I felt like the side character to the dynamic. Am I the a-hole? There's no way that anybody could be blinded by this whole situation. How could you, as a, 30 male, act like an 8-year-old? How are you still getting your mum to wash your hair and do all that for you? How, it's ridiculous. Act your age. On to our next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to sign something from my wife's employer without speaking to a lawyer? Sorry if this is long. I usually don't post on Reddit, but a friend suggested I do for advice. For a few years, my wife has been working hard to make a go of being a VTuber streamer. She had her own little character, got a bit of a following, and ended up getting another character to stream as with a talent agency that specialised in that. I'm only vaguely familiar with this. I know there are massive agencies. I don't think hers is a very popular or big agency, although it does have a large following online. So far, it's been going really well. She's been able to make it her full-time job, and she seems really happy with everything. I am too, and I'm immensely proud of her knowing the level of dedication she's put into it. About a month ago, I got a weird email from someone claiming to be with this talent agency. I didn't even notice it at first. It went to my spam box, was worded weirdly, and something seemed off about it, so I didn't pay any mind to it. I just figured it was spam because I'm subscribed to my wife on everything, everywhere possible, and the talent agency. However, I then got another one, and another one asking me to respond as soon as I can. The too long didn't read of the email is they want me to sign a legal agreement that says A, I won't represent myself as wife's VTuber character or wife's actual legal name romantic partner in any online or in-person event capacity, and B, in the event that we were to split up, I'd be forbidden from revealing any information regarding a breakup or divorce to protect her anonymity and identity. I read through the legal agreement and it appears to have been done up by an actual lawyer and everything. It was frankly dumbfounded. As I mentioned, I'm only vaguely familiar with the world of VTubers and anime streamers, so I understand how the majority of VTubers keep their identities hidden, and there is an element of purity in this sort of idle stuff that would cause fans to be disillusioned, which honestly seems so stupid. That said, I know some comments on stream/videos have connected her new character to her old one. She never hid her identity on her old one, but never went out of her way to show it. What I'm trying to say is, if someone did a handful of Google searches finding who my wife is, or at least looks like, isn't exactly an impossibility. When I got home from work, I brought it up to my wife. I could tell she knew it was coming and she was being avoidant of talking about it. I asked if she had some concern that I was going to go online and just dox her, but she said it was just how this industry works. I remember a time a couple of weeks ago I posted a few photos of us on Twitter, where I have less than 100 followers by the way, and she seemed kind of panicky asking me to take them down because she didn't like how she looked, or how she kept loudly mentioning or randomly interjecting about reading how locking accounts and making them super private was really good for security. She had locked/deleted some of her personal accounts at this time too. Long story short, she just told me to sign it and that it was more of a formality to make her employment smoother. The thing is, this is a legal agreement. It's been drafted up by, as far as I can tell, a legitimate law officer that represents this talent agency. There are other clauses in this agreement that I won't get into, but are frankly as ridiculous as the two I mentioned. I admitted I would be happy to help her if it would make things easier, but I wanted to speak to a lawyer first before signing anything just to be safe. We argued about it for a bit, and I think she saw where I was coming from, but when I asked why I was the only one who had to sign anything, like, why can't her friends, family, past employers, teachers, ex-boyfriends, etc. do it as well? She kind of huffed about it and said I could see a lawyer but to book it fast because she didn't want it to be a big delay. She was quite cold with me for the next few days. For example, I faked sick to stay home one day to make us dinner because her streaming time overlaps with when I'm home, so we haven't had any meals together since she started. I told her it was ready and she just asked me to put it in the fridge because she had to prep for a collaboration stream. She also sent me a couple texts as she's streaming reminding me to be quiet or suggesting I go hang out with friends or something until she's done. I got a little fed up with the treatment and finally asked if she was being pissy with me because I didn't sign it. She said, "What do you think?" Yes, obviously. I asked her what she would do if my job legally demanded she put down in writing what her job is asking of me. She said, "I would sign it. I wouldn't stand in the way of your dreams." I asked if she genuinely thought I was standing in the way of her dreams. That really hurt to hear considering the amount of love and time I've given her towards this. The encouragement, the hours I've spent reassuring her that she's talented and does a good job, and frankly the thousands upon thousands of dollars I've helped for equipment, commissioning artists, etc. She rolled her eyes in huff, so I asked again, and she shouted, "If you don't sign it, then yes, because they've already been weird with me and passed me over for certain opportunities, and I know it's because you haven't signed it yet." I have a meeting with a lawyer next week to go over it, but I am getting pretty guilt-tripped by her and her parents for not blindly signing it. Our friend group is split down the middle, but the general consensus is it would just be easier to sign it to make her happy. I don't think it's unreasonable to want to consult a legal professional over a legal document, but maybe I'm not that good of a husband after all. So, am I the a-hole here for wanting to consult with a lawyer over this? This was Am I the A-hole? Thank you for listening and watching and being here to support my first video. I hope you had a lovely day and continue to have the loveliest day ever. Thank you.